Hello everyone, it's Victor speaking, and today I am here with Barbara. She is another student of mine, and I think she has got great insight. And actually, we decided to do a series on Saturn in each of the signs. And the reason being is because everyone is going to feel the upcoming energies or the current energies on the sky, differently. And the position of your natal Saturn is going to be crucial to determine what you might be expecting. Unfortunately, we might become a little bit technological or, not technological, what's the word? We might become a little bit technical because we also intend to explain to you why things are happening, but we are trying to make it as easy to understand as possible. As I mentioned, it's going to be a series. Today we are going to be going through what happens to you in 2020 if you've got Saturn natally in any of the cardinal signs. So the cardinal energies are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. The reason why we are going to be starting with these energies because these people are going to feel it the most. So hi Barbara, how are you doing?
Hi Victor, thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So do you think that all these planetary alignments, is it a little bit hard for the cardinal signs to deal with?
I do, I absolutely do. And particularly because this conjunction is causing a square in the charts of those people. And we actually decided we would focus on those who have natally Saturn and Aries, right? So when they have Saturn and Aries and the current transit is Capricorn, the planets are in Capricorn, that's creating a square aspect. So that's definitely creating tension for all of those cardinal signs. Yeah.
Exactly. Squares are like a 90-degree angle formed between two planets. And in astrology, we call them as like an aspect of tension. And the reason being is because both of the planetary alignment wants to achieve something on their own. And they need to learn how to, get together and then work and walk hand in hand. And unfortunately, because they've got different motives, it's a little bit of hard for them. Before we actually start, I just want to do a little bit of an introduction on this Saturn matter because I think actually Saturn might be describing three parts of our lives. So everyone has heard of Saturn returns already, and everyone is quite scared of it. Everyone tends to be, I think in astrology, Saturn return is the second most typical subject to talk about after Mercury retrograde.
Yeah.
Even people who don't know anything about astrology, they talk about these two subjects. And Saturn has got a 29 and a half, 30-year cycle. So in the first 30 years of your life, it's all about growing up. And basically a child becomes an adult, right? The whole idea here is that you need to become mature. And then after you've got like a good 7 years to actually settle yourself down and basically go out to the world on your own. So between the 30 and the 60, it's all about creating stability. It's quite an active period because you're working, you have got children, you get married, you put plenty of hard work. And then you've got the 60 to 90 period, which is all about getting old and then getting ready for a transformation. Now, plenty people are afraid of Saturn, but actually I do believe that Saturn is a planet which defines us rather than blocking us. It just wants to remind you of not to get greedy. You need to be aligned with who you want to be. You shouldn't be taken sideways and so forth. So in one hand, I usually say that Saturn is a greater benefit than Jupiter because it never promises anything to you, but at the end of the day, you get a little bit of a result out of it. While Jupiter, what does it do? Promises you the sky, and then your expectations are growing so high, and then you can fall big. So Saturn basically, we're going to start with the sign of Aries. And Saturn was in the sign of Aries in between 1937 May to 1940 March to start with. So we're talking about the generation who is between 80 to 83 years old. And then we had Saturn after 1967 March to 1969 April. So that was a little bit of a shorter period. Saturn only spent 2 years in the sign of Aries. And last but not least, we had it in 1996 March till 1999 February. However, in 1998, between June and October, actually, Saturn was in the sign of Taurus for a few months. Now, I know that you are personally affected by this because your daughter was born with Saturn in Aries,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, she was. Definitely.
So maybe it's going to be a little bit of a prediction for her as well. Now, Saturn, I would like to say that we are going to be trying to give you also dates, what to pay attention to. And we are going to be trying to give you like approximate year and month when you were born and you're going to be feeling this the most. Now, people who were born in 1969, February till April, they are going to be feeling this planetary alignment in Capricorn. And the reason being is because at that time, Pluto and Saturn were natally in opposition. Now these two planets are forming a conjunction on 22 degrees. And before actually we get into, the prediction part, I wanted to tell you that those people will feel it the most who has got natal Saturn after the 20 degree of Aries. What we talk about, and you've got Saturn maybe beforehand, you might have felt these energies already in the last couple of years. So how would you describe Saturn being in the sign of Aries?
Well, Saturn is in its fall in the sign of Aries. So Saturn has houses and signs that it likes to be in. So it's at home in Capricorn and Aquarius, and it's exalted in the sign of Libra, but it's in its fall in the sign of Aries. And so this isn't a good placement for Saturn, of course, because Aries is the pioneer. It's the baby of the zodiac. It's ruled by Mars. It likes to take action. It's also compared to as, or described as the general, the fighter. And so generally Aries likes to just go, 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 whereas Saturn in Aries says, hold up, stop, let's think, let's take a beat, And I like the analogy that you've given once before about, Mars being the sprinter and Saturn being the marathon runner. So where Saturn is concerned, it wants to train you up, it wants to prepare you, because it knows that the race is long. That sprinting there is going to tire you out really quickly. So yeah, I think
that's a very good analog.
So I think these people might feel a little bit held back because they tend to just want to, because Aries is a very, I think it's an ambitious sign. It's a very bold sign. So they may be very ambitious and want to accomplish things. But again, Saturn wants to take its time and get there step by step.
Yeah. You see how I also usually describe the Saturn energy is that imagine a measuring cup when you try to bake a cake. Now, Aries wouldn't use that measuring cup. Actually, yesterday I was watching a film, or was it an interview with someone? I can't remember. Anyway, oh no, I went to my driving lesson. Mm-hmm. And then the driver said to one of the girls that, oh, so you're going to go home and then you are going to be cooking. And then she said, no, I can't cook. My husband cooks. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the husbands are better cooks than ladies, she said. And then the guy said, oh, that's a very interesting, statement. And then the lady said, probably the reason why guys are a lot better at cooking because they don't mind putting extra ingredients in. The ladies are, oh, I'm going to leave that half kilo of meat for 2 days later, so I don't need to cook. Or you know, they are trying to save a little bit of a time for themselves. Men don't do that.
Mhm.
Now, the reason why I mentioned is because Aries would put the extra ingredients in, and Saturn would say, no, you need that for better days.
Right.
So like a measuring cup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And
um,
definitely a restrictive, I would also say that it's a restrictive or constricting energy, you know? And, you know, Aries doesn't like to be constricted. You know, it likes to just be free to do what it wants to do when it wants to do it. But Saturn likes to do things in decency and in order. You know, it represents authority figures. And, you know, Aries being the general says, no, I'm the boss of me. But Saturn says, no, you got it wrong
exactly.
this time. Right. Yeah.
However, these two combo are very good though for becoming kind of an authority figure, famous, to run a successful business, but maybe just at the second part of their lives, because these two energies need to learn to work together first.
I agree.
So maybe the ones who were born in 1999, they might be very ambitious this time around, and then Saturn is gonna put the index finger up. No, babe, no, that's not gonna work out. But you know, the ones who were born in the 1967, 69, actually they might be seeing some results coming out. You know, they put the hard work in, and now it's all about go and collect the reward for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, you mentioned the term fall, that Saturn is fall in the sign of Aries.
Hmm.
Now, how I usually describe fall is that imagine that you go to a party and then you tend to be dressing up beautifully. You're going to have great makeup, you're going to choose your best dress, great hair, and so forth, right?
Right.
And then imagine that you knock on the wrong door. That's kind of a fall energy. It
Mhm.
doesn't mean that it's going to last forever, but it's going to cause tension for a certain amount of time till
Mhm.
you overcome that.
Mhm.
And then we've got the exaltation sign, which you mentioned that Saturn is exalted in Libra. Yeah, that's again like going to this party, but that party is only going to last for 8 hours or so.
Mhm.
So, and then after you go back, you wash down the makeup, and you take off your fancy clothes, and then you go back to normal.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's see how the rising signs are feeling. So what we're gonna do now is imagine you've got Aries, Saturn in the sign of Aries at the moment of your birth, and then we're gonna have a look at each of the rising sign, how it plays out for them, because obviously Saturn might be in a different house. If you have got, let's say, a Pisces rising sign, then your Saturn is going to be in the second house. So it's going to be a little bit of a different topic for everyone. So
Yeah.
how do you feel about Aries rising?
Well, before we do that, I wanted to say, because we're also focusing on the conjunction, the Saturn and Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees. And so I think it's important to kind of describe the energy of Pluto as well. How would you
Okay,
feel?
yeah, sure.
So Pluto is the sign, it's at home in the sign of Scorpio, eighth house. It's the sign of, or the planet of power, of death, of rebirth, of intimacy, of deep investigation, secrets. And so when, right, and with it being in Capricorn, it's about 3 places away. So Saturn likes being, I would say, in Earth and air signs, and Pluto, while at home in Scorpio, I would say it feels pretty comfortable in the sign of Capricorn. And Saturn and Pluto, they kind of have similar natures in that, you know, Saturn wants to refine things. It wants to, you know, it only wants what's needed. And, you know, it wants to, and then rebuild it with a strong foundation. You know, you wouldn't build a house with an unlevel floor. You want to make sure that the foundation is square, plumb, and so on. And then whereas Pluto's concerned, you know, it's about digging into our psychological kind of uh, selves and wanting to pull out and investigate and really look and examine those things that are causing us that are holding us back sometimes. the things that just we're most uncomfortable with looking at. So together, I think they make a really powerful combination to, to start working on the psyches of the individual. And that tension is
Yes.
really, difficult. So did you have anything to add, else
Oh
to add?
no, just there is South Node there as well as South Node. It's there as well. So it just really shows that we need to restructure our lives.
Yes.
And as we said at the beginning, probably the cardinal energies are going to feel it the most.
For sure. And because they are angular houses, they tend to be angular houses. The first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses are angular houses. And they, and any transits there can be more manifesting than maybe in the cadent and succeedent houses, right?
Yeah, cardinal means action. So
Yeah.
these candidates won't have a boring year ahead, surely. It's full of action. So maybe let's have a look at what action maybe the Aries rising sign is experiencing, meaning that their Saturn is in the first house, actually.
Yeah. So I actually have my little, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So, and I excluded it or reduced it just to, I don't have two Saturns, so I'm using the sun. So
Okay.
those born with Aries rising would have natally Saturn in the first house, and then the current transit of the 10th house, Saturn there and Pluto there with the South Node and North Node in Cancer, right? So it's going to impact their first and fourth house strongly, but also the signs that the other signs that Saturn and Pluto rule. So it's also going to pull in the 8th house energies and then 11th house energies, right? So Aries is looking up towards the 10th house. I think depending on what stage the person is in their life, maybe the younger generation is looking very goal oriented, and maybe they probably have felt held back up at this point in time. And there's this deep tension in them that says, you know what, I'm ready. I'm ready to achieve. I'm ready to, build a legacy for myself, or just, make a name for myself, in my career, to be visible, because the 10th house is a very visible house. And then Pluto there, it's forcing them to maybe look at some self-limiting, kind of habits, because building in the 8th house, and then looking forward to those long-term gains, 11th house. So I think that's where, for me, I think that's the emphasis of Aries rising. So did you have
Yeah,
anything else?
probably they have got a question mark in their head. How will I be able to cope? They might be experiencing some financial troubles, maybe a loss of a job. Maybe they are going to be questioning their social status, because that's pretty much 10th house as well. But you might be just asking yourself, am I at the right place at the moment? How do you feel about people having Taurus rising sign, meaning that Saturn is in their 12th house natally?
Well, Taurus risings, again, yeah, like you said, Saturn and Aries is going to be in their natal 12th house, and then the transit is currently happening in their 9th house.
That's right.
And right. So it's also going to pull in energies of the 7th house, their relationships with other people, and then the 11th, and then the 10th house again. So there's still the energy of long-term goals, but primarily with the energy being in the 9th house, the 9th house is about your beliefs. What beliefs have been holding you back, or maybe restructuring your beliefs, and making a new plan to move forward, in life.
Yeah.
And potentially might be some issues with a partner. There's other people involved in that. So again, there's about this energy of like communication, because the Pluto is 3 houses away. So for me, that has the energy of like Mercury. So thinking about what things have I been doing, or my belief systems that maybe need to be refined and solidified, and that are going to get me to this next stage. Yeah.
Yes, maybe they have to watch out for their health status as well, because 12th house talks about hospitals, checkups. You know, the question could be here, does the body rest enough? Are they putting so much energy into like work, for instance? And definitely the biggest matter here is not to become stubborn about it. Go and get yourself checked out. Also, they might think that, you know what, I'm going to travel abroad, I'm going to try my luck in a foreign country. Saturn might say to you here that the grass is not greener in the neighborhood. So just think about it twice. How about our Gemini rising? So Aries, the natal Aries Saturn is going to be in the 11th house, and then it's triggering their 8th by transit.
Yes, by transit, and then also impacting, so their 8th house, so also impacting their 6th house, and their, we said 8th house, so that 9th house as well. So, yeah. So the 8th house is about other people's money, you know, there might be, maybe they're trying to secure money or loan for business, it might be, or even their partner's resources. There might be some restriction or some contraction because, Saturn is about contraction, so reduction. So, and there may be a need to restructure, maybe the direction of how you're spending money, or just, or how to go about getting money, obtaining money to achieve some long-term goal.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe Saturn is going to cause some trouble around friends as well there. Something to do with children also, because astrology is all about polarity. So because you've got the natal Saturn in the 11th house, it does bring in the 5th house energies as well. So you might have been wanting to get pregnant for a long time, and then you just feel blocked. This year could be the year when you have to work hard on that topic. Yeah, there might be still blockages and tension in the area, and it might be coming from, with partnership problems and so forth. But maybe with enough hard work, you can actually experience great results by 2021.
Yeah.
What about our Cancer rising?
Cancer rising, that's the other square. That's the second square, right?
Yes.
So Cancer rising is all about, the family. It's about protecting the family, your foundation. And Capricorn is actually going to be, the transit in Capricorn is going to be in your 7th house. So, and that's pretty much that's creating an opposition. And then the square is going to be at the 10th house there, just other people, right? And then the square is actually from the natal is happening, also occurring in the 10th house. So there might be some tensions with a partner, with related to maybe Cancer, wants to build a family, and then maybe there's some pushback about, no, we can't do that yet, or maybe the partner, or maybe Cancer is focused on the career, and the partner is actually providing some resistance to, Cancer's working maybe a lot, and they want that the partner wants that attention. Or maybe there could be some issues with resources, or how should I say this? Codependency. Cancer is about attachment. So, and if the partner is maybe pulled away, maybe a little bit coldness, because Saturn is about coldness too. There might be a shift in the relationship, or I think maybe Saturn also could bring about a relationship, because 7th house is about partnerships. So it could be about meeting someone and creating a long-term relationship. Hopefully it's not about divorce or anything, but I think it very well could be about them meeting someone new, and because sometimes with cancers, it takes a while for, because Saturn delays, and Saturn in the seventh house tends to delay relationships. So maybe they're finally meeting that long-term partner.
Yes, I agree with you. Maybe someone has been in depression for a long time, and then someone important pops into the picture. But it definitely shows that maybe they need to take some energy away from the status, from work, and focusing a little bit on their personal relationship as well. And I agree, maybe they get married, but some couple can actually experience divorce as well with this. This is a very intense energy. But you know what, if it's not about divorce, they need to lay the relationship on new foundations. It's like falling in love again, remembering why they get together at the first place. And that's going to be very, very important for them. How do you feel about Leo? So obviously the natal Saturn is in the ninth, and the transit comes from the sixth house.
Yeah, so the sixth house and the ninth house. The sixth house is all about your health, your daily habits, and the ninth house are about your belief system. So maybe there's just the idea of just, I would kind of show the visual again, but let's see, the sixth house here, Leo here, and then the ninth house there. So maybe what routines have you been doing, or maybe how they've been eating, or maybe work actually has just been really intense for them as of late. And they need to create a different plan of action, you know, or just learn how to deal with the pressures on a different level, you know. It can also maybe, hopefully it won't impact their health, you know, too much, because Saturn can, you know, Saturn there can cause some, you know, contraction and restriction. And then Pluto wants to transform things, and also kind of rules your organs as well. So certain, you know, sexual organs or whatever. But hopefully with this transit, Leo is gearing up to work a little bit harder and implement some new health routines in their life. What do you have to say?
Yeah, and that's right. And because the natal Saturn is in the ninth house, you know, especially the younger generations might experience hardship in their studies. If they are coming up to GCSEs or trying to get their diploma, actually they might need to put extra effort in. They might need to work harder to achieve better grades, because there is a possibility there that, you know, they might fail. Basically, it's all about releasing their everyday activities and then put the focus into studies more. You know, if you have to choose between going out to have a beer with friends every night or actually spending a couple of nights of studying for your exams, probably choose the exam part, because Saturn is all about long-term goals. If you are a parent, you might see that you're going to run out of money and you're going to find it hard to actually pay for the tuition of your children. That could be also a case here. Or possibly, if you are working, there might be downsides in your business you work at, and they are going to be asking you to learn new skills. Then go for it, because it promises you that in a long run, you've got stability going on. If you are not willing to, you can lose your job, unfortunately. How about Virgo? Well, so it means that natal Saturn is in the 8th house and transit comes from the 5th.
Yeah, so there might be some, you know, with Saturn and Aries in the natal 8th house, some intimacy issues, you know, some just maybe fears about them. And then the 5th house, you know, Saturn and Pluto wants to, you know, kind of tear away or tear down those things that have been holding you back, and maybe to create more romance in your life, you know, starting, or maybe even if you hopefully been having some issues with getting pregnant, because eighth house is also about pregnancy, and fifth house is about kids. Maybe there might have been some difficulties with getting pregnant, so maybe this is an opportunity to kind of work through that and to be able to, you know, give hope, especially with Jupiter going in there, giving hope about being able to, you know, have kids, or maybe even starting, you know, fifth house is also about, you know, your creative things, your creative hobbies and habits, you know, and so maybe trying to secure some other people's resources to, you know, to embark on a new journey of where you want to go, where you want to take some creative things that you kind of had buried for some time.
Yeah, that's right. I agree. Pregnancy could be definitely a huge topic in 2024. Then, if you are, oh, I'm not. If you are pregnant, then it means that if you are already pregnant, it means that you need to take more rest and just pull back a little bit. But also just pay attention to your reproductive system, because there could be slight issues around that, which might lead to operation. That's all I would add there. How about Libra?
I forgot to do that for Virgo the last time, but again, Libra is another cardinal sign. Aries natally is going to be in that seventh house, and then the Capricorn Pluto transit is happening in that fourth house. So there's some issues with home, you know, family, maybe some parents. Maybe there's, you know, Libra's having to take care of some parents, or maybe they're having to downsize their home, or maybe with the issues of partners and relationships, there might be just some trouble at home with your relationships, and work could be the way to kind of refocus out of that, going towards that 10th house of so yeah.
There could be maybe some crisis situation about couples moving together as well. And it might be something to do with property issues. Maybe actually there might be conflicts between the in-laws and the spouse. Maybe it's just a little bit of trouble around being able to buy a new property. Unfortunately, there is the possibility of losing a parent or a grandparent in the cards as well. Also, the father might lose the job, and that's the reason why the family kind of need to pull together and then support the father. That could unfortunately also be the case. How about Scorpio? So we've got Saturn in the 6th house, and the transit comes from the 3rd.
Yeah, so the 6th and the 3rd. So the natal would be, Saturn would be in the 6th house, and then the transit, being in the 3rd. So the 6th house, again, is about your daily habits and your health routines. So if there's been some issues, maybe just long-term standing issues with your health, maybe, I'm sorry.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. The 3rd house being there might be some help, you know, coming from siblings. You know, this third house is the people around you in your work environment, and so maybe you're actually learning new ways of trying to approach your health or your daily habits. You know,
exactly.
Maybe you're learning, or maybe you're taking some business travel, because obviously sometimes 6th house can be work. There might be some issues or related to short distance travel, because 3rd house tends to be the Mercury house, and that indicates travel and communications and things of that nature.
Maybe the car is gonna break down on the road on the way to work. Actually, that could be a possibility here. even if you want to buy a car, because sixth house rules debts, just watch out for it, because it might show that you shouldn't be spending money on an expensive car at the moment. Saturn is telling you that a cheaper car is just as brilliant, as an expensive one. So it kind of reminds you of watch out for your wallet. Also, this might mean that you're going to have to watch out for accidents as well on the roads. You might be prone this year to accidents. So Saturn wants you to, check both ways on the road and don't be reckless.
So I also have one last thing to say about the transit that's happening for Scorpio risings. So with the Saturn and Pluto conjunction in your third house, and then your natal Saturn and Aries in your sixth house. So the sixth house is traditionally also the house of strife and enmity. So maybe there might be a need to restructure how you communicate with other people, to be more strategic about your approach with dealing with people, especially your work colleagues in your sixth house. So if they've been
that's right.
So, and maybe you have it, to kind of, bridle your tongue and think about what you have to say first. And it may be, working through that. Yeah.
Especially with hierarchy figures as well, because Capricorn rules hierarchy. Yeah. Let's take a look at Sagittarius rising. So meaning that the natal Saturn is in the fifth and the transiting energy is in their second house.
Yeah. So again, Sagittarius rising, natal being in Saturn and Aries there, and then transit happening in the second house. So if I can just use my daughter as an example, I know.
Oh, we're talking about your daughter now. Okay.
Shh, don't tell her.
Okay, I won't.
She's an artist, and so she's a singer. She wants to be a singer, and so she's been working to create a business for herself. And so fifth house is creativity, right? And then second house being your resources. So maybe Saturn and Aries, again, with Saturn and Aries, that you have to, those people tend to have to work a little bit harder to get, 2 steps ahead. They might have to work, 10 times harder to get, just like that far ahead. And, kind of pushing themselves up, thinking about the plant, pushing itself towards the surface, towards the light. They may feel like they're still underground and reaping the financial rewards, their earned income and their second house and their self-worth. It may also be, the second house is self-worth, net worth, so there may be a little stress, could be doubts coming in about, should I continue down this path? Like I believe in my art or my business, my whatever it is, this baby. The fifth house is what brings you joy. It's children as well. Or maybe for other people, children might be causing some financial constraints.
What about you? Because obviously it might, if you talk about parents, actually, they might have got some financial troubles because of their kids. Sure. And their dreams, long-term goals.
For sure. And I have to be there for her, because right now she's not gainfully employed. So, I am still her caretaker, so that's definitely there. Fifth house is also about who you date, your romance. And then, second house being, if I relate it to like your self-worth, maybe you're kind of feeling more, you're learning to embrace who you are and to get out there and to say, this is what I want. I want to date someone. I want to be with someone, and, they're going to have to accept me who I am,
Yeah, that's right. How about Capricorn? So the natal Saturn is in the 4th, and the transit is coming from the 1st.
Yeah. So the rising sign, and then right, and then Aries and Saturn being in the 4th at home. So again, with similar to Saturn and Aries. So the rising sign is represents yourself, and your directional path. So those people, so with those people, the transit's happening to them, their physical body, and how they choose to go about their life's direction, right? And so natally, this energy is in Saturn and Aries in the 4th house of home. So maybe there might have been some restrictions growing up from maybe a strict parent, and there might have just been pressure or just fears about taking a path less traveled. Even though that's not necessarily a Capricornian energy with Saturn there, but maybe Capricorn ascendant or Capricorn rising, with they're choosing to go about their life's purpose in the way that they want to, because the 1st house can actually impact any area of your life, really. But that tension is coming from the 4th house of home, and there might be some issues that are happening at home that may be impacting your physical body.
That's right. It
Maybe
could even be the dad's body as well.
Mm-hmm.
Traditional astrology says that 4th house rules the dad, and the 1st house is the body. So the energy from the 4th house is coming into the body of the dad. So that could also be, a meta here. And as a native, you might be experiencing that you need to take extra responsibility in your own family.
Yeah.
How about Aquarius energy? So Saturn is in their 3rd, and the transit is coming from the 12th.
Well, I'm an Aquarius rising, but I'm thankful that I don't have Saturn and Aries. so, so with Saturn and Pluto happening in the 12th house, and then again the 3rd house. So the 3rd house is about how you think and can communicate, and also your siblings and people in your immediate environment. So there might have been some issues with siblings, for the native, in their childhood, or maybe just in presently. And they're working. Maybe there's been some long-standing issues with distance, because 12th house is, you're, far away and lost, and basically it's the Pisces house. So, planets here tend to make the individual want to retreat. So maybe they've isolated themselves from their siblings, and maybe they're working through some of those things that have been at issue, longstanding issues, and to bring them back together. I would caution Aquarius rising to pay attention to your dreams. I know that I have to do that. My dreams have been really vivid and really revealing, and maybe it's also teaching the Aquarius to learn to use their voice, because maybe they've been restricting themselves and how they speak out. And so it's helping to redevelop and restructure just any fears that may have been, that come about from, that have been deeply buried, maybe from childhood or wherever they've picked them up throughout their life. Yeah. Did you have anything else to add?
Yes, because 12th house talks about losses, and the 3rd house talks about, for instance, documents. Just make sure that any important document is locked up, because that could cause tension later on. 3rd house rules your in-laws, uncles, nieces, siblings. So basically your immediate family. And there might be some possible illnesses with those people. And again, there might be some increased activity going on this year for you because of that.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we've got the Pisces rising. So Saturn is in the 2nd house natally, and the transit is coming from the 11th.
Yeah. So 2nd natally, and then the 11th house. So I actually like this for Pisces. I think these are two really good houses for these transits to be occurring in. But maybe for Pisces rising, maybe they've felt, you know, the second house rules your like as I said before, self-worth, net worth, and earn income, right? So maybe there have been some restriction or restricting energy, and maybe on your finances. So, and also, you know, Saturn there it may bring about some fears. It's just about spending money, right? Um, but maybe with the square happening in the house of gains and hopes and wishes and friends, maybe there might be some beneficial people who come, especially with Jupiter going there, helping to reshape and structure what you think about and how you spend money. Maybe you're wanting now to maybe you've been saving a lot for a long time and you know, afraid to spend it. So now you're like, no, I deserve I deserve to take a vacation or whatever. I want to splurge. And so it's taking those gains, those long-term gains, the 11th house, and maybe deciding what you want to do with them or investing them, and or maybe even planning for, because 11th house could also be retirement, right?
That's right.
So really thinking about your retirement and you know, taking a look about how far you've come, because in terms of the 11th house and the I thought about this earlier. So with the Capricorn energy versus the Aquarian energy, I think that, you know, Capricorn's more focused on goals, whereas Aquarius is focused on growth, right? And so so maybe this, with this energy, Pisces is, you know, has new goals, and they're trying to figure out how far they've come, because that's what growth measures. You know, how far have I come to achieving this long-term goal of mine, you know?
I completely agree. I think the main topic for them this year could be, could I afford this for myself? And I think Saturn is a reminder here of, yes, take vacation if you need to, because you're going to have to recharge your batteries so that you can come back with a full fling and then go towards your long-term goals. But just make sure that you are not exhausted in the meantime. Yes, some of you who might have got a business might actually experience some financial crisis in the business. And that's why they are debating with themselves whether they should be, you know, taking a vacation and so forth. But a vacation doesn't mean that you need to spend thousands of dollars. You can just do a road trip and then go to the next town and then switch off a little bit. Pisces, you know, is a compassionate sign. So maybe it's an indication here that this year you have to grow a tougher skin. It's not about sensitivity anymore. It's about investing time and effort into yourself and then basically working your guts off. And that's a promise then the results are going to be coming in towards the end of the year 2021.
Yeah. Especially
Great.
with the Jupiter ruling planet going there as well. You know, the Jupiter ruling Pisces in that 11th house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially Pisces rising, they might be seeing additional boost of energy approximately in the middle of the year. And let's say from March till June onwards. Mars is going to be around, and Mars is very good in the sign of Capricorn, so they might feel that boost. Yeah. And this is the time as well when I feel like they are going to be needing to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, you know, before we, you know, wrap up, when I was preparing for our talk, something came to me in a dream. It was about a book that I read by an author, a very famous author, Napoleon Hill. He's most well known for the book Think and Grow Rich, right? But the book that came to mind has a very controversial title, I would say. It's called Outwitting the Devil. the secret to freedom and success. And so the concepts of in this book, I would maybe, if people are interested, maybe check it out. It was written in 1938, but it wasn't published until 2011. And the family who kept it under wraps because they felt like the content was really controversial. And the material, in my view, is very relevant present day. And, you know, Napoleon Hill, he's, you know, supposedly having a conversation with the devil, but it's just, I think it's more metaphorical. And it's about, you know, what things keep us from achieving our highest and most, and becoming our best selves. And I think that's what this Saturn-Pluto conjunction is kind of, you know, highlighting or spotlighting. And he talks about the habit of drifting. You know, drifting is not using your, you know, just not letting others think for you, and, you know, and going about life just very carefree. But people who have definiteness of purpose, and I think that's what the Saturn and Pluto conjunction wants to convey. What do you want? Think about what you want. Go deep. Make a plan. Be sure about it. And don't let anyone steer you from your path.
I cannot agree with you more, because Saturn and Pluto are pretty much associated with the Devil tarot cards. Now, what we can see is that there is a huge devil, so no one would really fight with that person because of just the body size of that devil. Mm-hmm. And Adam and Eve are actually chained up to him. Mm-hmm. And it talks about just giving a little bit of a space for them to be able to move around, but they cannot escape. And devil is nothing else but your own insecurities. Yes. If you don't let those go off, if you don't leave them behind, you're never gonna feel that freedom around you. Yeah. And now the devil card in tarot is number 15. So if I add up the numbers, that's gonna be 1 + 5, which is 6. As in astrology, 6 is ruled by the planet of Venus. Venus is the planet of choices. So the question you need to ask to yourself is, am I making the right choices? Am I choosing me, or I am choosing someone else instead? Mm-hmm. And especially for people who were born with an Aries Saturn in the sign of Aries, I think this year they're going to have to make some choices, which is going to be benefiting their long-term goals.
For sure.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed the very first part of this series. We are going to be posting the rest of them as well. So you can see that basically to have a look at Saturn in all the 12 signs is quite a huge job. So this is going to be 12 videos, but I also believe that you can benefit from this a lot more than just a little bit of a generic reading, because you can understand a lot more your planetary alignments. Of course, this video is not replacing, you know, a professional astrologer's reading, because the whole chart needs to be looked at the same time. And then if you need help with that, we are here actually to help you. So if you like the video, please press like, subscribe to the channel so you can be notified of the upcoming parts of this series. And thank you very much for Barbara for joining for the very first video. And I'm really looking forward to carry on with you very soon.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.